Hello, everybody. My name's Milan Starcic. Welcome to Freedom Rising, a podcast dedicated to empowering individuals on the journey to personal growth, lasting serenity, and freedom from addiction. Tune in and join the movement. Your journey to freedom starts here. We neither represent, promote, or demote any 12-step program or organization. We are merely souls on the path of recovery with the desire to expand our lives and experiences and share them with you. Hello, everybody.
What's up?
Welcome to the 163rd Recovery Freedom Rising podcast. I'm Milan Starcic with co-host Andrew Normand and J.J. in WV. J.J. and Andrew, I love you guys. I'm so glad to be here today. And it kind of fits because today's topic is loving completely. So could you share what this means to you, Andrew, and why you were happy to discuss this here today? I can't understand why you would be happy to discuss love.
I can't stop smiling right now. First off, where'd you get this guy JJ at? First off, did you give out tickets to that gun show today, or you just giving that out freely? Hey, I love you, JJ. I love you. Thank you for being here. I could not have thought of a better trio to talk about loving completely, right? Love, and then you throw that completely word in there, and it kind of really opens it up, man. And that's my thing. My thing is love. So if I'll talk about love for 8 hours if you want me to. So we're gonna talk about it for a couple. I'm down. Loving completely. When I came in here, love to me was transactional, right? Everything that had to do with love was based on transactional relationships and transactions themselves. What it means for me in terms of being able to move forward, loving without conditions, loving unconditionally. And that's my part too. And that's, again, I reference this a lot. It's why it's so powerful, because there's nothing you can do about it. If I tell you that I love you, if I love you unconditionally for whatever reason, there's nothing you can do about that. When you get a group of individuals and 40 people in a meeting telling you they love you, it gets real powerful, real quick. If you didn't give me attention, you didn't give me money, you didn't give me a place to stay, I didn't love you back when I was in my disease, right? Like that's where my love came from, was if you gave me what I needed. Today, I don't keep score. I love without keeping score. I love because it's who I want to be. That's who I want to be. I know, like, I was born from love. Like I was made from nothing to a human being because of this word. And so I used to struggle with like that shame and guilt when I came in here. I used to beat myself up really bad. And now I accept, like, I'm a work in progress. You know what I mean? I'm a work in progress, and I love myself today. And that's a lot of this. What comes with this process is the vulnerability, right? And presence, sharing openly in meetings. That's a form of love, being out there sharing your story and receiving love back, and hearing other people's stories. Love is action. When we come in here, we've been beating ourselves up for a long time. So it starts with self-love and self-care. You know what I mean? We gotta understand what our needs and what our values are today going forward, because it's very important. We can't live in that place anymore where we were people pleasing and doing things errantly just to get what we needed. JJ was talking about taking money from people that turned around, and now he's living on that's where he lives. They gave him a place to live, essentially, a plot of land. I mean, it's just amazing some of the things that can happen to us once we really get honest and we start working this program. But it's about building trust and intimacy going forward. You know what I mean? With ourselves, with other people, honest communication, taking responsibility for our actions, making amends promptly if we do something wrong. But we have to relearn that intimacy, addressing past wounds, not trying to live in that shit. So there's a lot around this. I mean, I could go for days. Again, this is right up my alley. So we'll pass that because we got some questions and we'll talk all about this. But I think that's a good opening for me. But letting people see me cry today, admitting my fears, asking for help, it all comes in with with loving myself, other people, and being vulnerable today. And I love you too, man. I couldn't have had two better bros in here talking about some love, man. I love you guys a lot.
Love you, man. And JJ, you want to talk about loving completely means to you, Mr. Butterfly? And
Mr. Butterfly. That's right. Loving completely. When I got the invitation this morning, and accepting God's love, seeing that that there's so much that I have nothing to do with, and I have so much to learn. So when loving completely, and I think that I responded to Milan in that I have so much to learn because um, loving completely is something that I'm not capable of. And the minute that I even realize that is a challenge for me to love myself and not feel like I've come up short and that, I'm then not lovable. I mean, it's such an important topic. Um, there's not, I'm an addict in recovery from a fatal disease that's full of defects and weird thinking and twisted emotions. And um, when I admitted what my problem was, that was the beginning of me opening a door really to self-love, you know? And and yet in my addiction, I loved lots of things. The capacity for me to love, I believe, was probably put there to begin with. Um, you had referenced a scripture, and there's another scripture, and I use scripture as a reference. Um, Loving completely. I was not given a spirit of fear, of timidity. Um, I was given a spirit of love and self control. So when I think that once I land on planet Earth and the outside world starts to pick and have its effect, it's interesting as we become adulterated, right? As we start maturing or trying to, um, there's so much that interferes with that ability to self-love. There's not an addict I've ever met that knows the first thing about love, about self-love, because our whole life has been twisted, and maybe again it's the lure of defining what love is. Well, I used to love the drugs because it made me feel lovable, and but the truth is in the experiences that was taking my life away. So, to begin to enter a process of learning how to love myself, and it starts by by the experience of serving others. And um, again, I was taught that my mother was an angel on earth, and the things that I put her through. Andrew talks about being prayed into recovery, and I know in my heart of hearts that my mom led the parade, right? And so that act of love, she was the most loving person that I've ever met. And when I referred to, and I don't know if we're going to, but you had referenced 1 Corinthians 13, right?
I'm going to read the middle
You better
paragraph in a
read it.
minute.
Yeah.
After you're done, brother.
Well, it's just a challenge. Again, like the topic is loving completely, and I come so short of that. Check it out. I got to share this with you guys, man. If there's a higher power, there's a lower power. I'm a human being, and I've got my 21-year-old son is moved back in, living with me. He was out for a couple of years, and we had a blow up today. You know, um, and here and I'd already contemplated I'm going to be talking about loving completely, and there was there was very much a lack of love. The love brought us back together again. There was a mending of fences because we can't live this way. And part of what I need to continue to do is establish a healthy boundary. I heard Andrew mention that. That's part of what the process is. That's why I'm here on this podcast, because I have a lot to learn. I love my life. I find it much easier to love you. When you are involved with children, it's a whole nother story, because they need the love, and I need to continue to learn how to impart that love. So I'm glad I'm here. I love both of you guys. Again, in the course of this morning, I've had 3 calls out of the blue of brothers telling me that they love me. Like, I am overwhelmed. Love again. It continues to happen. I cannot deny it. And what I want to participate in is being that loving source. And I, more so than ever in my life, I am that way. But there's still, I need to continue to learn how the process works. So thanks, Milan.
I love you,
That's
JJ.
amazing. I love you. So I just, for everybody out there, I've been doing this two-way prayer now. It's 5 weeks today, and this morning in my question, like for how can I love more completely, and it was because it's been my question of the week. That's why I picked this topic. I'm sorry I didn't ask for the, but I was like, you're not going to refuse.
I knew
this,
that's why
Heather.
you did it, because we talked a lot this week. I knew this is what it was.
And I'm literally writing some of the last things, like in for my two-way prayer, like for listening. And the last 3 things come through in JJ's voice. I kid you not. I kid you not. And I was like, man, I'm like, I just sent out the invite. And then I told Andrew after, I'm like, man, I hope you're okay with this. I'm like, but I had to invite.
I'm sorry.
I'm like, I was just like summoned to ask JJ here
Bro,
today.
okay with it. I was like, damn right. Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
So my quest for loving more completely comes from me for the first time, I guess it was like 35 days ago, coming in contact with this reading of the 1 Corinthians 13. But I'm just going to read the middle paragraph because it's the one to me that defines where I'm falling short the most, and what I'm striving for at the same time. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered, and it keeps no records of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. And when I read that 35 days ago, it got me bawling. I immediately sent it to Andrew. It was like, he was like, dude, what the hell is this thing? Like it was, if you're actually open to it and you're reading it, for me, it's like, how they say, like in the 12 by 12, the AA book, it says, no, not just progress towards perfection. Well, if I'm going to put love on a pedestal, it's going to have this definition right now for me. Like if I could love anywhere near as perfectly as that paragraph, God damn it, I would be spreading love across this world like no other person I've ever met. And it's just incredible to me that, like, this was my realization this week, is that principle of love encompasses all the other spiritual principles. If you look at love as a definition like that, it has honesty, it has compassion, it has tolerance, it has acceptance, it has,
Please tell JJ
it
that
has
I won.
discernment.
I won.
Yes, JJ, Andrew has officially won. Love has beaten acceptance.
Yes.
Just
You
just
heard
to
it here,
say,
JJ.
I'm admitting defeat.
Only
because
took me 163
JJ saw
episodes.
it go. Yeah, I know. You know what? When I meet you, I'm gonna take you out for some wings.
Yes.
I'll get you some extra hot sauce.
Yes.
Because you're one spicy motherfucker.
Yes. I had to throw that in there.
You know, love's described not as a fleeting emotion, but as a spiritual principle in that reading. It's patient, kind, humble, forgiving, enduring, and rooted in truth. You know, to love completely is to live with compassion unchained by self interest, to practice acceptance without condition, and to embody integrity that transcends fear, pride, or control. In recovery, loving completely means allowing the higher power to reshape how we relate to ourselves, others, and the world, moving from self obsession and self will into freedom, service, and connection. And, you know, for me, it, it aligns completely with where I'm at with this two-way prayer. You know, like I'm trying to use this two-way prayer to literally have a template for how I am supposed to grow today in the world, and how, you know, how it's like preemptively asking for help with mistakes I haven't made yet, you know. And I'm finding it that it's leading to a lot more peace, a lot less cognitive dissonance on my actions, preemptively and retrospectively. And it's just it's pointing me in the right direction of who I want to be every single day. And I'm super stoked to be here with you two. Like, I honestly, like, you guys are a couple of the most open, loving men I know. And I'm like, we're here literally to learn about this together. Like JJ said, we're not here to disseminate like the information from the top of the pyramid. It's not like that. But it's like we're going to ask questions and we're going to probe and see where we're falling short and where we've grown. Like, you know, I'm not the worst person I've been in my life. I'm far from that person. You know, like 22 months has like it's like a fucking warp drive to another galaxy of love. You know, it's just not where I was, but I still have 6 galaxies to cross to get to where I want to go, you know, but I'm okay with who I am now because I can enjoy myself today and accept that, you know, the lessons that are in my path. I love you guys. You want to start with the questions, Andrew?
Absolutely, man. I'm coming to you. I love you too, man. Love you too. This is amazing. You know, our what we talk about is our focus, man. And so I'm focused solely on love right now. So, JJ, how has learning to love yourself changed the way you show up in recovery?
Oh, can we do one thing?
Yes.
Can we do one thing before JJ answers the first
Yes, sir.
question? We didn't do the serenity prayer.
Let's do it.
God,
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 grant
grant
us the
us the
serenity
serenity to
to
accept
accept
the
the
things
things
we
we
cannot
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 change,
change,
change.
the courage
courage
to
to
change
change
the
the
Change
things
the
things
we
we
things that
can,
we
can,
can.
and
and
the
the wisdom
wisdom
to know
to
the
know the
To know
difference.
the
difference just
difference.
for today.
Just for
Thank you.
today.
Thank you, sir. All right, I'm going
I
to ask
love
you
you.
one more time, Mr. JJ. How has learning to love yourself changed the way you show up in recovery?
How has, excuse me, you know yourself
Learning
the
to love
kitty
yourself.
cat, learning to love myself. Well, the first act of love for myself is the absolute clear decision that I cannot put any chemicals in me, Um, and from that, my spirit really has come alive. And um, how is learning to love myself? I think that for me, it's interesting when I hear Milan say 22 months and jettison to another galaxy. And I think to myself, I've been 37 years and more and plus, I mean,
I know
and
him.
more days and the journey and the goals the same. I mean, um, I've been put in a place where I examine myself to see, you know, where I'm not perfect. And when I feel the pain doesn't feel good when I'm not loving. Um, and, my disease of self-centered selfishness can wear all kinds of masks. And, my pain, my serenity is really the barometer for me to be able to take inventory and see where again I know what to do now. This this communication that went, very intense with my son this morning. There's reasons for it. It didn't happen by accident. There's reason. I love myself enough to know that I want to give my son the very best that I can. Um, you know, and it's difficult. Part of my experience has been it's so much easier to love my family in recovery than it is still for me to come through for my own family. It indicates that I have some more work to do. Um, but yeah, I don't know if that answered the question or not.
I think it
Yes, it
did.
did. Hell yeah, it
Absolutely.
did. I love you,
You know how
JJ.
we roll, JJ. We answer, and the question was the starting point, not the destination.
The question really is just blah blah blah. It's just
It's like
whatever
how
comes out of your
it's
mouth after
supposed to inspire you in a direction.
that. All right, Milan, coming to you.
Okay,
How has learning to love yourself changed the way you show up in recovery?
man, this is still a massive work in progress. It is. I'm heavily liking myself now. And I'm loving. I'm starting to love myself. It's kind of like when you've got that roast and you want to cut it into steaks, but the outside's thawed out, but you go to cut and that middle's still a little bit frozen. Like there's still parts of me that I'm definitely just accepting versus loving right now. But it's definitely a work in progress. And so what I'm seeing though is that for myself, I'm seeing that this two-way prayer, this trying to, seek out the service in the moment, seeking and also exploring all my responses of what it is to love more, like more completely. And the biggest thing right now for me is really reducing that record of wrongs. Man, I am so great at having like a little storage pile of ammunition in my closet of rationalization that it's like I'm literally, like I'm not cleaning house right now, man. I'm having to learn how to burn my house down and enjoy the fire. Like it's that dramatic of a change. And because like almost every single thing in that paragraph I read, I'm like, man, I could be pretty impatient. You know, Ooh, I was just envying the other day. I think I dishonored someone. I was pretty self-seeking in that avenue, and I was easily angered. Oh shit, man, there's a record of wrong because that's why I was rationalizing that anger. Like, there's so much that I'm needing to surrender, but the only way I do that is through awareness. Like I feel like I've been put on a point of awareness like I never have because it was something that I probably didn't want to look at, but it is literally what's holding all my relationships back. You know, I'm I am loving like, and one of the things like about saying your love is self-seeking is that if you're loving somebody like you want to be loved, but not actually finding out their needs, that's self-seeking. It's like you're
Mhm.
just creating mirror, mirror on the wall. Like they should want to be treated like me. Like, and it's not. And that's so like, it's like taking the time to listen, find out about them and grow, like, and I think until I like open myself up to actually be able to not like act like I'm being attacked by people and can receive love, I'm never going to reflect love. So it's a massive work in progress for me. I'll leave that one there. I love you, man.
It's beautiful, man. I love you back. It's like a sick form
Appreciate
of
that,
people
Mila.
pleasing. It's like a really sick, twisted form of people pleasing where you're like, it's like all coming from bad angles. That's cool. That's wild,
But
Milan. That's
but
a great
then
point.
you act loving to somebody, right? And then you're like, what the fuck? Why aren't they happy about that? And it's because you didn't even fucking bother to look what they want.
You didn't listen. You didn't really, there's
Yeah,
active listening as part of building communication.
yeah.
It's beautiful, man. Thank you for bringing that up. That's a great point. I actually wrote that down when you were saying it. So how has learning to love myself changed the way I show up in recovery? Well, I feel like I wasn't really able to show up until I learned what that term meant. Being able to put my whole body, my whole soul, my whole mind, body, and soul into this thing until I really was able to understand what y'all were trying to give me when you said, let us love you till you learn how to love yourself. When y'all said that, y'all kept saying that to me from day one. And I didn't understand what that meant. Then you come right behind that with like, just keep coming back. So if I keep coming back, y'all are gonna do this until I realize what y'all are doing to me. And I'm saying this now after the fact, but like when I'm wrapped up in it, when I'm in like at those moments, I don't see all this magic happening. I don't see what's going on. Being able to look back at it now, I know exactly what the hell was going on, man. I know exactly what was going on. Whatever situation got me thrown into these rooms, God brought me to these rooms without me even knowing who God was. I didn't even have a higher power. I had nothing. I didn't know what that was. I didn't even want to tap into anything. Like I said, I was running from that thing because I had nothing to give. I had nothing to offer it. So without my awareness, he threw me in these rooms, which brought me to him, right? They threw me in here, and now I have that relationship with him. And it's changed everything. It really, I feel like wasn't able to really actually show up until I felt that, or was able to understand that I'm building that today. And how I'm going to do that is through this surrender process, being able to actually surrender to this thing, and understand I can't do this alone. Being able to love myself allows me to invite other people in. If I don't love myself, if I don't freely have this for myself, I'm not going to freely give it to anybody. I can't give anything away if I don't have it. They told me that too early on. Like you're not going to be able to give anything away if you don't have it. So at first that sounded real cliche. I was like, all right, man. All right, guys. Good point, right? Master of the obvious. But until I couldn't really genuinely care for others or build relationships or be of service if I didn't believe I was worthy of that service. Right. So I had to understand that me doing this and being of service to this fellowship and other people is a way that I am building love for myself. And y'all just like I just took suggestions, and early on it was just taking those suggestions that got it to where I knew what I was doing for myself, building that self-love. Step work and then it rolls into like step work. Step work showed me, my own humanity, that fourth and fifth step, man, put my past on paper, allows me to see my patterns and understand, like, I'm just a sick person trying to survive in a sick way. That's all I was. That's all I was doing. So now, doing that allows me to remove that it's like my side person, that negative, drug filled, that angry person that I used to be. It allows me to remove that person from the situation tenfold, right? I get to remove that person. I get to see him from the outside looking in almost. And it's beautiful because now I can steer my path. I've got this love and humility foundation where I'm on this boulder, and now I can steer it with a little bit of acceptance, awareness, all those little things that we sprinkle in there. But you're right, Milan. Love encompasses all of it, all of it, all of it. If you're true to yourself and you're working this program, to the best of your ability, you're being honest with yourself. I mean, love is going to encompass everything that you're trying to do here. It's going to make everything a lot easier or harder if you're going to fight it. It's going to be a lot harder. You got people coming here that really, really struggle to identify their way in because they don't that love is uncomfortable. It's really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
To the point where it pushes people out. But That's kind of my
You
answer.
know,
That the daily act of care, that builds my foundation for forgiving, being able to forgive myself. That's part of that self-care. So were you going to say something, JJ? I didn't want to interrupt you. I didn't know
no,
if you.
I just interrupted you, bro.
No, I know, but it was on something good. I was ready for it. I was ready for you, big dog.
Well, I'm telling you is that I almost asked you to read the question again, right? Which I should have done because, but I didn't, and I'm listening, and that's all that's important because as the question turned that back to how does loving myself affected my recovery? How did the question end?
Yeah, it's how has learning to love yourself changed the way you show up in recovery?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I said number one, I freaking don't use. I stay clean. That's the most important thing, right? And it's amazing because this is not a 22-month process. It's not a 4-year process. It's a freaking lifetime, man.
Not a 37-year process.
It's not a 37-year process, like I'm in this place and to listen. So I needed to hear the back end of the question again because I was focused on this loving, how's loving myself, and like the awareness at this stage of the game of like, whoa, bro, you got a whole lot of loving yet to receive, to understand and incorporate, right? And so the fact that I have learned to love myself enough to give it away, to be in, like, the whole reason I'm here right now is because I've been in the boat, man, you know, more or less. And I think I can look in the rear view and identify periods of time where I was less in the boat. And brothers, be prepared for what would distract one, And again, I'm attending meetings, I'm involved in service, but where's my humility? Where is my commitment? This giving away. I can't give something away that I don't have. Well, I learned that by giving away the bullshit. I didn't have good shit. It's like selling bad dope. And but that's all I had, and I'm
Give what you
giving
had
it.
to give, though. That's it.
Exactly, and again, the message was I hurt myself, and I hurt other people in recovery. Um, and most importantly, I hurt myself because I think that's still um, the years I spent in unforgiveness. For for what I had allowed myself to experience, and some of it, again, in the name of love. I mean, for us to differentiate um, this spiritual love and the carnal love, that we get tricked by, um, is so important. It's part of the process.
Forgiveness is the final form of love, JJ.
The final form.
Yep.
Maybe
Well,
the starting form.
well, yeah, for real. In order to leave, um, the love of this program. I mean, I had to understand I was sick, and so yeah, in that there was a forgiveness, or, and again, Milan is right in his awareness of acceptance. Like I had to accept the fact that I'm this fucked up in order to receive the forgiveness. Otherwise, I
Beautiful.
justify being fucked up, and I continue to just run through on self will. And and again, that can occur today, man. There is no perfection. There is none. There is a striving to realize, oh, there's another weed that popped up, and I need to pull it out. How's this affect my recovery? I'm telling you, it's like, and this is part of what I think I was expressing, and in my confusion to my first answer is that my desire to be there in recovery, in the process of a dead person coming back to life. Like I'm so committed to being available for that, and it's being involved in the step process to understand how the literature works, to be participating in my own step work. Then the thing that I'm really at is this acceptance and realization that well, what about your grandsons? Are you going to wait until they are addicts before you get involved intimately with them? Boys,
Wow.
I'm telling you, right? Like,
Mm.
and again, now an addict, right? We do what feels good. So being in the process of this miracle of recovery, as opposed to fathering my 21-year-old, I'd much rather be with you guys than helping set boundaries, but
Yeah.
right.
It's working
But
on his program.
I'm telling you, because this is real life. This is what will fuck up your love, and it will bring it into question, because it's like, okay, I'm going to get on them. And I knew initially I'm not going to be pontificating about how loving soul I am, man, because I am a freaking grateful recipient of abundant love. I can't get away from that. It blows me away. The relationships I have and the love that I receive, I feel like I come up short. I make the effort, and again, I'm running it through the sieve of that scripture, right? And our
The
program,
sieve. Love that.
is doing the same thing, right? It is allowing the higher power in, and then looking at what I have to strain out. You know, where am I? Where am I keeping score? You know, where am I keeping score? Um, because I know that in my second marriage, boy, that at a certain point I said, man, I got to start keeping score, because, you know, I'm getting overrun here with funk.
Part of that scripture says keep it, the love keeps no record of wrong. Like that
It
right
does.
there, that hits me so hard. That is one thing that I, it's even my, as loving as I am, that's really hard for me to wrap my brain around, because I still keep record of wrong.
Even one is a record. Like it
Yes.
does. You don't have to
Yeah.
keep 50,
Right.
but even
Right.
one.
I don't know
Yeah.
if it's possible. I don't know if it's possible. That's
Well,
why I don't think
but
this.
That's where forgiveness
that's
is
right.
the
Yes.
answer.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
Mm, mm. JJ, did you have questions
Do
today,
you
or
got a
do we?
question to ask me?
If not, we're gonna just roll it around like we normally do with
Yeah.
Milan asking, and we'll just keep
Yeah.
it going around that way. It's okay if you don't. We last minute.
Well, no, I think Milan, I can't pull up. I know that I responded to his request to be on the meeting with a question.
It-
I don't know if you can pull that up or
yeah.
not.
Hold on a sec.
This is getting fun.
And
Okay.
we
How
remember
do
just
I continue to love when I determine I've come up short?
Ooh, okay. So that's for you, right, Milan?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah. Yeah. This is it. Yeah.
I want to say
So
that again. Ask that again. Ask that again. I
okay,
like that.
how do I continue to love when I determine I've come up short?
Ooh, okay.
Well, I mean, man, I think the whole way inside this life and this program, if I gave up the first time I failed, I'd still be sitting in diapers, not able to walk or talk. You know, like I feel that I guess, if I'm going to be 100% honest, I feel like I've received enough carrots to keep pulling the fucking cart. You know, like the freedom of surrender, right? Like right at the start of this program, that was enough to drag me into looking at faith, you know, and then my connection with the universe, and getting to get in on my step 4 and like gain that freedom and awareness of myself. Man, like there goes shame and guilt by the buttload, and so it's just like I know right now. Ooh, I'm way too aware that I'm falling short all the fucking time, man. Like I would say, fall short, star sick. But but the thing is, though, is I'm also the fucking Rocky Balboa star sick who just
yeah.
gets back up and takes another punch in my own face from myself. Like
Adrian,
no, I'm like surrender.
surrender, acceptance.
But like so. I mean, okay, I'll tell a little story that happened earlier this week. I think Andrew might have heard it on Wednesday, but you know, my father-in-law lives with us, and you know, and he's had a bunch of health issues now, and he's not gone anywhere unchaperoned since shit went down in January with different health wise and that, and so we had some friends visiting, and I was. And the lady actually, it was her 7-year birthday, like in the program on Monday, and we were going to a meeting, and the meeting's in the next town over. It would have been dark by the time we got out of the meeting, and we were going to go for a walk, me, her, my daughter, and her son. And my father-in-law was all of a sudden, as I'm about to leave, he's like, I'm jumping in. He's like, oh yeah, I'm just going to walk around town. And I was like, no, you're not. Like, you know, but I had to be like the voice of like, hey, like, you know, it's not safe. Like, anyway, it turned into this big conflict between me, him, and then my wife, because I was like, well, thanks for bailing me out here, babe. You know, like, and yeah, I was, and then I come home and they're both asleep by the time I get home from this. So there's no resolution. And I wake up Tuesday and I am freaking stewing in it. Like I'm just like, okay, like, you know, like, man, my record of wrongs was like, I had it like tattooed on my forehead. Hey, if you can't see, this is why you've wronged me. And and so that was what I set for my two-way prayer that morning. And I'm walking afterwards, and I pray while I'm walking by myself, and I literally was like, please let me show love in getting through this circumstance with my wife and my father-in-law. Like, I didn't want to be resentful at all, but I didn't know how to get out of it, right? And so then, you know, it was a really connecting moment while I was walking and praying. And then my wife wanted to come on the last walk with me right after this walk. So, and I was like kind of hesitant. I was like, I'm not sure. Maybe, you know, I'm not fit for
Kind of
human
me and
consumption.
God's
I'm
time.
not fit for human consumption right now. Like, you know, just, and then we start walking. And I just looked at her and I said, you know, I said, we don't need to talk about this now. And I'm not trying to come out swinging or anything. I said, but we do need to talk about last night at some point. I'm like, there just has to be, you know, both sides of us actually talking and not arguing about this. And then, so she told me her whole side of it. I told her my whole side. And it ended up coming to a real loving solution. And then we come back from our walk, and her dad had gotten up, and he was in the kitchen, and you know, and I just turned to him and I said, hey, you know, about last night. He said, hey, I'm really sorry. He's like, I didn't know that Michelle wasn't going, and I wouldn't have been coming to go on, you know. And I said, I need you to know that I didn't want you to not come because I don't like your presence. I needed you to know that it was because I couldn't protect you, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we hugged it out, and that was it,
Yeah. It's
you
beautiful,
know.
man.
And so it really, you know, if that doesn't show me that I should keep going back in the ring to
Yeah.
grow in my love, you know, because that, like they say that, you know, well, I mean that all pain, every bit of pain provides an opportunity for growth, right? And that certainly was the case with me and my family, you know, and
Oh,
uh, and it was about communication. It was about, to me, it was about patience and communication, because I think, you know, like the let's resolve this right now, that doesn't work.
Mhm.
Like, that doesn't work. Everybody needs time for the stove to turn off and the water to stop boiling, you know.
you ready for this? Look, so love isn't canceled out by failure. It's proven by what I do after.
Ooh.
Mm.
Okay,
Little,
Andrew, so
little
how do you,
stinger.
how
Yeah.
do you continue to love when you determine you've come up short?
Where did you get that question from?
It's JJ
That's a
question.
dope question. JJ, you came up with that?
That was his response to, do you want to come on the
That's
podcast?
awesome, dude. That is so awesome. So, you know, continuing to love, right? Even when I feel like I've fallen short, I gotta continue to love and lean into love. Love doesn't lose, Milan. You just told a story about it, like it's undefeated. You tackle, you know, when you approach something with love, genuine love, it's gonna win out. It's gonna win out each time. It's gonna win out each time.
Even if you
Um,
can't approach it with love, but the desire to love even can
yes,
do it.
yes, and state that going into it. You know, if you don't know how to do it in a loving way, just say, "Hey, I go into it. I love you. I really care about you, and I just want to approach this with love, and then let it come out, right? Just start it with that, and it usually will soften the blow a little bit. So, you know, even when I've fallen short, that's really one of the hardest lessons I've had to learn. Once I learned it, I've tried to perfect that thing, man, because learning to love, even though I feel like I haven't living up to my own expectations, is tough. It's almost like an artwork for me. Um, but so when I fall short, I used to think that was the time when love would stop. Like if I fall short, I'm not worthy of the love. Like that's where that whole like I'm not worthy of these things comes in. But now having done a little work on myself, getting a little time under my belt, like I realized like those are the times when I needed the love the most. You know, that's the time when we need love the most is when we fall short. You know, when we're not at peace, when we do something wrong, when we're ill-advised or doing something that errantly, like that's when we need that love. That's why it's so important for us to build this new support network, you know, of people that love us and see us if we're acting out of character and ask us what's going on, right? So we can stay in the boat, JJ, so we can stay in the boat. We don't fall off the boat. Very, very important not to fall off that boat. You know, you can get over there and look at the edge every once in a while, but don't fall off the boat. You know, but how I do it is I practice self-compassion first. Like I got to have compassion for myself. There's a few people that come into these rooms, a lot of people, but few specifically that come into our meetings. JJ, I don't even have to say a word, but you know them, you know these people. Like I try to tell them, I preach to them to try to practice self-compassion. Like there's no self-compassion because it's like they come here, they beat themselves up. They know all about the literature, they can wax poetic on the literature and they can do all this, but then they use it as a weapon against themselves. And there's just, it's like I don't know where this whole like I gotta beat myself up every day until somebody loves me. Like you have to have some kind of compassion for yourself before anybody's going to be able to do anything for you. No one's going to be able to love you if you can't come in here honest, loving, willing, right? Like, and I'm getting too much on a personal vendetta thing here, but JJ, I think you know who I'm talking about. I wish this person would love themselves.
It's yeah, but you know, the thing that happens is that lack of love is what hits people. That's what's emanating. You know, I mean, it is the yeah. So where do I line up with that?
And I'll ask you that question. Yeah, you're rolling right to your answer, my man, if you would.
Yeah, how do you continue to love when you determine you've come up short, JJ?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, often I have to go through a painful point of self-criticism, of really of a lack of love, because that's what occurs, right? I'm trying to be loving, and that's why again, how have I learned to love myself? There's still a galaxy that I need to move through, but the awareness that I've just fallen short. So what are you going to do? Again, this is a choice. I have no choice if I pick up and use. I'm faced with the choice. Am I going to criticize myself? In other words, be unloving. Like, how do I get to a place? I've just fallen short of being loving, of having a capacity for love. So that, the answer is not to look upon myself with a lack of love. I need a love source. I need to receive forgiveness. And, I need to be aware that there is a higher power. And I'm either connected with it or I'm not. And that continues to be, and I love where we're going, because this disease wants to reinforce, like the personality that you just described, Andrew, is one that is not capable of receiving. There's a disconnection of being able to receive the love. This disease, and it's twice in our literature, is described as an awful emptiness, right?
Mm.
Lack of connection, lack of acceptance, lack of receiving the love that, when I remember, and I'm getting chills, like God is around me, omnipresent, ever present, all the time, right? But my human brain puts me in a box, isolates me, and now nobody loves me. It's very selfish, but it's an indication that this disease of addiction, for me, that's why, we are so blessed. I feel so blessed that I know what the fucking problem is. Like, I've caught this disease that's really clarified what maybe people that I sit next to in church
Are trying to do.
when I go to church are trying to do, but they are an addict. Like, so they got a choice, you know. I might think I have, my choice is not to use. And in that awareness, and because of very simplified program that's numbered, because this dope needs to connect the dots, man. You know, but it's that simple. And every time I connect the dots, there's a more beautiful picture that I'm looking at. They move and they change. And so what's the point is that, the ability to receive the love. And so it's an arrogance. There's an arrogance going on, that I think I'm not lovable. When I've reached a point that, oh God, I've come up short, you know, well, yeah, you've come up short because you're just a human being. And what you need is to open your mind. Because if, in the AA Big Book, it's beautiful because it talks about fear, and it's in our 4-step inventory. And it says, and I think I've shared this before, but it's profound. And again, right, I was not given a spirit of fear. I was given a spirit of love and self-control. Well, this disease of self-centered fear, and maybe other human beings suffer from the same thing. In our 4-step, in the AA Big Book, it says, so we made a list of our fears. Then it says, and we looked at them and we asked ourselves, why did we have these fears? And it answers that question with the question, wasn't it because self-sufficiency failed us?
Mm-hmm.
My answer is absolutely, across the board. I'm afraid because I relied on my own power. And at that point where I've come up short, okay, it's time once again to rely on the higher power. Quit being so arrogant as to think that I am complete enough to be able to match every circumstance. I don't have unconditional love. The higher power does. I mean, I've convinced myself that every time I fall down, God is there not to criticize me. I do that. And to flip the switch on the concept that God is not punishing me and he doesn't threaten me. And he continues to love me. And I rip myself off when I prejudge instead of going through it. If I'm feeling honest, and listen, the most intimate relationships that we have, right? And I'm in one now, and it brings this to bear, is that I need to trust my heart. I need to risk loving, knowing and I get scared and I want to cut and run, right? And that's an addict move. That's a lack of faith. Uh, I want to cut and run because I'm not going to get what I want. That's an addict move. That's an addict conclusion. It's like, what am I in this for? And and so I don't know. When I fall short, it makes me aware that I need to look for the source. The source is there. It's the sun comes up every fucking day and it goes down, leaving me in darkness, but the faith that it's going to come back up again. is what I just have to stay aware of and not
It's
be afraid.
beautiful.
And I love you guys, and
Love you, bro.
Love you,
I'll
JJ.
keep coming back.
That's
So
beautiful.
it's beautiful, and I'm just saying. So my phone is ringing right now, and
That
I'm not
We
gonna
can't
get it.
hear the ring though,
we
so if you
can't.
just ignore them, it'll go away.
And what
I
you said,
can't.
real.
I can't ignore her, but go ahead
Oh,
anyway.
What I
okay.
said.
No,
What you said reminded me, JJ, of this is the only disease that, when it's treated properly, leaves us in a better position than if we even had the disease to begin with.
I hear you.
Mhm.
Yes,
You know what I mean? Like, that's just blows my mind.
absolutely, absolutely.
Love you.
Love you, Mom.
Okay, I've got a question for you, Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
Love that is not easily angered allows healing where there was once destruction. How have you learned to pause before anger destroys intimacy?
Oh wow. That pause button, that all important pause button. Um, I've learned, like, especially when I'm dealing with something, whether it's my significant other or somebody, a good friend of mine that I spend a lot of time with. Um, I've learned that, like, I've got to have some expectations of myself in that relationship, and then when something hits my desk, from that other side, I've got to know what hills I'm going to stand on and die on, right? Like, there's going to maybe be one or two things that, like I'm going to be on that mountain, and I'm going to be like, hey, you can either come up this mountain with me, or, like, fuck it, right? Like I don't care. Um, and I used to not have that perspective. I used to just kind of, if it made me feel good, if it helped me out, and my ultimate goal there, I was good with it, or I wasn't, I'd burn it down. And I've really learned through this process that I have to take these relationships that I'm building, and they hold weight with me. They keep me peaceful when I'm not peaceful, and so I've got to. There's got to be some give and take. I've got to meet people where they're at. I've got to be okay with that, and then I can't use love as a weapon, right? Like, I know we've talked about this in past podcasts, where, like, if you don't do what I need you to do, I'm gonna withdraw love from you. Um, and that gets really
Record of
nasty.
wrong.
Right, right. Keep it there. You go. That's exactly what it is. I didn't even think about that as I was saying it. That's your record of wrong. Without even doing it, you're gonna withdraw, pull back some of that love.
It's like
And
loaning love. It's
it
like having a
is.
love loan.
It is. I remember, and I still find myself doing this. If my woman pissed me off, or, like, she makes me mad, I'll even talk to her in a different tone, because I want her to know that I'm withdrawing that love a little bit today.
Yeah.
That's sick, man. That's sick, and I do that. I find myself doing that a lot. Even in regular relationships, it'll come across, and I'll go. It won't be the answer I want, and I'll immediately get deflated,
Mhm.
not knowing that, hey, this is the way it's supposed to be, right? Like God has other things, other plans for this situation, and you got to lean into that. Surrender to it. You got to surrender to it. Um, it's easier said than done looking back at it, but in the moment, it's tough for me, and I'm glad we're bringing light to that, because it is something that I do find myself doing, and I try to notice it before I act that way. But it's easier said than done, man. I wear my heart on my sleeve, man. My emotions are all over me at all times, so it's hard for me to be like, oh yeah, just roll right through that if it's something that really hurts me. So I think I answered your question.
I think you did too. I'm not sure if JJ left for a phone call. You still out there, JJ? He's still in the podcast, but he's got
He
his
is.
video. I think he had to answer that
That's
call.
all right. That's all right. He'll be
Yeah.
back.
Okay, so you know what? I'll answer this question and then he can answer last.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, love that is not. Oh, here
There
he
he
is.
is.
Whoa, bang, he's back. Okay, JJ, I'm going to ask you this question.
I was listening the whole
Oh,
time. I just
oh,
kicked the text back to
okay.
inform her what was up. Yeah, yeah.
Love that is not easily angered allows healing where there was once destruction. How have you learned to pause before anger destroys intimacy?
Have I?
Well, yeah, there you go.
Have I?
Mm.
No, I am so much slower to anger. Um, It still happens though. Read the question again, my brother.
Sure.
I
How
love
have
you,
you learned
JJ.
to pause before anger destroys intimacy?
Uh, I think I've learned to do an inventory as to why am I angry. Um, and at what points, yeah, and I love this program because and we have to practice these principles in all our affairs. Um, Being clean makes me that much more aware of when I'm feeling dirty, and I have to do an inventory right away. Um, how does anger destroy intimacy? Um, well, it's self-serving, and there's typically a fear underneath my anger, and to have the courage to deal with what the fear is and address it, um, can be a process and take a minute. Um, the I think I still have the ability to get angry and sort of shut down. That destroys intimacy right there. But again, it has to be followed up with, like, not happy with shutting down. I'm not happy with running. I very much want to resolve. That's why I loved your story involving your father-in-law and your wife, is that the importance of, and that's what we get to learn here, is the freedom of the resolution, and um, and I know that my anger is there's um, initially, I mean, I can't let it fuel my action because there's too big of a consequence from that. But when Andrew was talking about um, at what point do you draw a boundary? How do you know that a boundary needs to be established? My anger is the first indicator. Something's fucking wrong here. That's what happened today, right? Something is wrong. So
How do
that
you discern between rationalizing that boundary and that boundary actually needing to be there?
um not reacting. Um Ask that question again.
So if you're saying, okay, I'm angry, I'm going to create a boundary because I see a need, like something's causing this anger. How do you know when you're just rationalizing your anger to create that boundary or when the boundary is actually needed?
Well,
You,
to me, I think that the anger is indicating there's a need for a boundary.
okay.
So, so at that point, and reacting out of the anger, again, has never been fruitful.
Yeah.
There's always been a negative consequence. But if there is positive effect, so I mean, what is it before it blows up into throwing shit, right? When I'm angry, right? When I'm bugged, when something doesn't feel right, having the ability to discern what it is, and that takes practice. I mean, this is what I need to do with my boy, and we need to sit down and we need to define the boundaries are not clear, and but that's a question that I have. And again, I am not rationalizing, and I get your question. That's not a justification to throw shit
Mm,
because I have a boundary that I can, that I think is valid. Um,
mm,
so, um, yeah, um, I just got interrupted with another text. It seems to come through while we're on
Busybody.
our podcast. Yes. Um,
it's right.
yeah,
It's
but
all right. We got about another 30, 35 minutes max. So we're just going to push your day back a little bit more.
No, we're good. We're good. This particular question I think is really important
Hmm.
as to as to the necessity to establish boundaries, and that's just being responsible. So here we go. The loving action is to be able to, to identify and set up a structure and boundaries. And fuck it, I am powerless and unmanageable, so that's why this doesn't come easily to me.
Hmm.
But we're at a point now, and I'm at a point just like I came to a point that I had to get clean or I was going to die.
Hmm.
My son and I have to reach a point where we are making this a constructive, productive union here, and we have a plan. And for that, there needs to be healthy boundaries set. That's a loving action. I'm gonna shut my mouth. I love you guys. Thank you.
Love you, bro.
I love you.
This has been really very meaningful today, and we can't practice the understanding enough. I'm certain.
Mm,
I agree.
yes. So love that is not easily angered allows healing where there was once destruction. Or love, yeah. How have I learned to pause before anger destroys intimacy? The education of that reading, like of just looking at all the facets of love in that way, like, and the feeling I get when somebody is easily angered, like that feeling destroys the feeling of safety in that relationship. And so it's like, not only am I looking, at my part in my resentments, right? But I'm looking at my part in creating the texture of other people's lives around me,
Mhm.
because that's like, if I'm really loving, I want them to feel love in my presence. And when I am just a hot-headed jerk, like that absolutely takes away a feeling of safety and probably a desire to even be in my presence, because it certainly repels me. Like it certainly repels me when I see, like, man, yeah, I find example is like going out to dinner and there's like a couple that's fighting. And I'm like, whoa, I'm like, I'm really glad I'm not them. But, and I'm really glad that my meal's over and I'm leaving that space, Um, but what it is now for me is this, that I see that it having that negative effect. And so inside my two-way prayer, one of the things that keeps kind of coming up for me is to listen and not seek to be heard. And I think that that's a huge thing about anger. Is anger for me often seems to come from a lack of really understanding where that other person's coming from, and just that it's like, like that old client of mine said, like, nobody thinks that they're the villain, and so where asking for the other side, even if I ask a few times, really helps me understand what's going on with the other person, and then it's like almost like looking into that and responding, okay, so is this what you're looking for in this situation? That is helping me not get as angry, because now I'm like, well, if I was them, I'd probably want that too. Like it creates a more of a sense of compassion. And so, like, anger was absolutely one of the things that came up for me, like this winter and spring, before the great resurrendering of March 2025. So, like that, this one for sure is just something that I see a need to address in my loving more completely. And so, you know, I, but I would like to say that it absolutely destroys intimacy. Like there isn't like if you act in anger, you push people away for that moment. You generally create something that needs forgiveness or forgetness, like, but it's like, it's not only that moment, it's like you've got now a deficit to come back up to the feeling of love. And depending on how much you fly off the handle, you might have destroyed safety for years.
Yeah.
You know,
Or forever.
you know, it's one of the things that with my daughter, like I was never like a massive like spanking dad or whatever, but I think I was pretty good at that, like the one word yell, like the and
Yeah.
but if I do that, it's like you can see there's like, whoa, I don't like that, and you're just entering into parenthood here, Andrew. So I really think, like if I have any word to share with you is, one of the things that my mom told me she was most impressed by one of her parents' friends is that their children said that their dad never yelled at them once in their whole
Oh,
life.
wow.
And I always talk
Wow.
to him, like, and for somebody who's turning 80 this year, to be one of the most remarkable people that she ever met and did something for, so I think,
Beautiful.
yeah, I think that choose your tone wisely because you'll create the environment that they feel loved or not in.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. That's a great point. Thank you, Milan, for saying that.
Mm.
Yeah,
So
I
your
talked to him this
question
morning.
now? Oh,
Yep.
sorry.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, you're good. You're good. So this is a good question, guys. You ready for this one?
What?
Strap in. What?
Oh, I was going to
You ready?
say you were talking about him.
Yeah, no, yeah. I talked to him this morning on the way to school. I talk to him every morning. Yeah, I talk to him every day almost now. It's really cool. I got a little voice message from him yesterday saying like this is not a question if you call me back because I love you. Like you need to call me back as soon as you can. This is Ez. Like it's just it's so cool. Like I even saved it, man. I listened to it like 10 times yesterday. It was really cool. Yeah, being
You're
able
like
to
blushing. You love him so much.
I
I
do. I
love
love
this.
that kid, man.
I love it.
I love him. I love him a lot, man. It makes me want to
Shout out
cry,
to him.
actually.
Give him a shout out.
I have Ez, man. I love that. I love him. I love him. He actually, I spoke at a meeting, not yesterday, the day before. I'm sorry I didn't get to get telling you about JJ, but he actually, so Tessa was there and they were at a doctor's appointment. He wanted to listen, so he actually listened to my whole speaking thing that I did yesterday or 2 days ago. It was really cool, man.
Nice.
Makes me want to cry, man. It's fucking crazy.
How old is he?
He's 11. He just turned 11.
Oh, trip, man.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's a beautiful kid, man. All he wants for Christmas is me as a stepdad. He calls me every day, like, Andrew, when are you gonna move to Louisville to be my stepdad? I'm like, I am your stepdad, man. It's just I haven't moved there yet, So it's all a work in progress, man. But it's beautiful. It's beautiful. So yeah, I'm gonna ask you this question, JJ. You ready?
I'm ready.
How do you practice loving people who are difficult to love?
Wow. Wow.
I knew it was gonna be a good one. I knew this was gonna be a good one.
Oh, number one, by stepping back, and it's interesting. And there's a couple people that come to mind. There's very few people that I find difficult to love. Which I like to think is a blessing, but maybe the bigger blessing is the challenge of the two people that come to mind right now. You know, uh, and and I love what I learned from Milan is that if I find myself getting frustrated or angry at you, which would get in the way of my ability to love you, it's because I haven't gone to the effort to understand where you are. And I would tell you this, that it's the reason that there's very few people that vex me, because the capacity to wonder what they're going through, to be compassionate, has become more organic, you know?
Empathy.
Yeah. And 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 here, this fits in, and I'm glad I'm remembering this because the guideposts to pay attention all the time is so important, because the things that happen It's been a couple of weeks ago now, but in a situation where, well, I needed to hear this. Is that we are not here to be loved, comforted, and understood. We are here to love, comfort, and understand. And in the middle of that, that will remove my anger or my frustration, you know. Um, and and it really it's so empowering. Um, so I try to do that again, like the challenges of these two individuals. One is acceptance that they are who they are, and that my frustration and my anger can be for lack of accepting that is not going to change. This cat just joined my home group, my NA home group, and so I'm going to have to practice a lot more acceptance because I ain't changing this peckerhead, you know, and I have to love and appreciate, uh, but
Flicky
here again,
boy.
it's about a healthy boundary. Is that, and I drew a healthy boundary with him a couple of years ago. Is that no, you have me misunderstood and confused with somebody else, and he appreciated whatever boundary it was that I set. You know, so it really is a beautiful opportunity. God, if I didn't have this program and the people in it that give a shit, that want to continue to learn, we are so blessed. And the power of love, the power of God, the power of the Creator. We I want to be able to reflect that. And the other individual that I'm thinking of, as I've reached out, and even and I'll hear how nobody reaches out, and I go, well, okay, I'm chopped fucking liver. So but again, am I going to? That's what bothers that person, is that all of a sudden they're a victim, and so I just have to accept, and this is so important, because surrendering, accepting, and praying for that person. I have watched the miracles occur. If I have anything to do with it, it's because I have a belief that we don't have to be so bound up. What I can clearly see and understand is that the person that wants to create a chaos. I was married to a woman that was married to the chaos. She could not accept God's love, nor mine, and I still communicate with her, and I have to accept her, and I'm out of the way now. And because it's not up to me, my anger surely won't help. My understanding and my stepping back and my surrender and my acceptance that God's capable. And and I'm even seeing it in my ex-wife now, and it's not over till it's over. Um, so how much do I want to feed the frustration, or how much do I want to surrender and accept? And that's what we're discussing right when you are raising my consciousness, so I know what to do when I'm faced with your question. Surrender and accept and pray for what I believe in. I love you, Andrew.
Oh, that's beautiful, man.
Love
I
it.
love you too. All right, you ready, Milan?
Yes.
All right. So, how do you practice loving people who are difficult to love?
Ooh. Well, first of all, if you let an asshole make you an asshole,
He wins.
yeah, he wins, and it's coming back over and over today to that keep no record of wrongs. It's like that string,
I wrote that down immediately, man.
that string that
I can't.
goes from me thinking you're an asshole to treating you like an asshole. That string's a two-way string. Like if I put, like if I pull that as who you are, you get to pull that as who I am, because you're now controlling me, and I have spent so much of my life giving away my freedom.
Yeah.
And I'm done now. Like, it was one of my takeaways from that AA World Conference, man. One of the guys said, he's like, treat your serenity like it's priceless and stop passing your peace like it's salt at a table.
Mm.
And I'm like, yes. Like I when I feel that joy and contentment, dude, it is priceless. There's
Yeah.
nothing else. There's nothing else I want more than more of that. Like it is. It's like this. I'm like, oh, I'm here. Like it's just like that relaxing and inviting into my day. And so, you know, um, I generally will either I'll either remove myself from it, or I'll try to actually take a pause and understand them. But the thing is that, I don't want that to control my day, because now I am valuing my peace and my serenity in the day. And to me, it's, there's things about my life that are priceless to me that I just won't give away like I used to. And in my job, I used to give it away all the time for $1. I give it away for $1 all the time. And now it's like, okay, here's an example. I had some clients, they just wanted to put in an offer on a place. And to me, I've had enough listings that when somebody puts in an offer, you should be reasonably acting honestly in good faith to remove the conditions of that offer, right? Like, you have your financing, you have your, well, what happened was they said, oh, while we're, if this offer gets accepted, how long do we have until we can back out? Because we'd still like to go look at places over here, here, and here. And
Mm-mm.
and I thought about that for like 25 minutes, and everything inside me was like, man, this is compromising me. And I messaged them back and said, I love you guys enough to do this. I said, but I have to explain to you that if when you were just selling your place, because they had just sold their place, I said, when you were selling your place, if somebody had put in an offer, not acting in good faith, left you hanging for 2.5 weeks and just canceled the second last day because they found another place they liked, I'm like, how would you have felt? I'm like, I don't feel good about this. And I said, but I'll do it. Like, I'll do it if, like, I will perform your wishes as your realtor. I said, but as your friend, I'm like,
I don't feel good.
I want you to understand what I feel about that. And they're like, oh, you know what? We didn't entirely think of it that way. Let's just buy this house. And
Beautiful.
that was it.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I love that.
Mhm.
I was waiting for the ending of that story. I was gonna be like either. I'm glad you went with that. You had a good answer for that, man.
Well,
Love
but
those people.
that was
That's
it
cool.
though, is
Cool.
that defining my boundary and explaining the moral behind it.
Right.
Just let them know that that's who I am, that's who I want to be. And I hope that, like, they're really nice people. I just think that, once their house was sold, in their minds, I think people start getting scrambly for a place. And
Bro,
I
in your
don't think that
disease.
they're bad people. Like, I think they were the most amazing clients I've ever had on a sale, ever. So I felt close enough to them to just say, hey, like,
Right.
let this is not good or grindy or whatever.
Imagine if you were in your active addiction, you would have probably hustled on that whole part. Like, hey, yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. Soon. Something would have could have happened, errantly at the end. And it would have just made all the feelings go out the window, and could have jeopardized the whole thing. You never know, man. That's pretty
Mm,
cool. That's a great story, man. I love you.
I love
Oh,
you
I got to
too.
answer my question now, right?
Yeah.
All right. So how do I practice loving people who are difficult to love? I have people ask me that from time to time, actually. So, um, obviously there was before I came in here, everything was transactional. I had to get something in order to give something, especially love, or that word love. It was uncomfortable to me. That word, just saying that word was uncomfortable. Um, I used to, and here's what I have with that question is like, I would cut people off. Like if you didn't do something I would agree with, I would cut them off and treat them with resentment, like disguised as indifference. You with me on that? Like, do y'all ever found yourself doing that where you disguise like your resentment and your hatred or your displeasure with somebody disguised
Absolutely.
as just an indifferent? Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, just
Yeah.
like an indifference, but like we're still all good. Yeah, that's not the proper. You know, that's not the healthy way for me going forward. You know, in recovery, I've learned that like loving somebody, or you know, it's not because I either approve or disapprove of their behavior. You know, and I don't let people walk all over me either. You know, on top of that, like loving that in that context is like treating them with dignity, regardless, showing compassion and maintaining my own peace throughout that process. So it's about loving myself and them at the same time. You know, it's about loving them where they're at, understanding that they are exactly where they're at and they need to be right where they're at. But I'm not going to let that bleed over into my recovery or let it derail me. You know, like I can only tell them that I love them. The person that we're that I think we're thinking of here, JJ, I still talk to them almost on a daily basis. They text me and when they hit me with sideways shit, I just don't respond. And then when they hit me with like, well, I'm going to go use right now because God doesn't love me, and then I go, well, you know what? I hope that you don't. And if you do, I still love you. I almost have that on like rinse and repeat.
Right.
Because it's like they will hit you with like well, I'm just gonna go fucking use because that's all God has in store for me, right? And like love that person. You know, I'm starting to see a little bit of positivity out of them, but like I pray harder. I've prayed more for that person than almost anybody in this program. I mean, I'm by name daily, twice a day. I pray for that person specifically. You know, so it'll happen eventually for them. You know, but what I have to do is separate the person from the behavior. That's the first thing I do. You know, I've got to understand if somebody's actions are toxic or manipulative or harmful. I try to remind myself like that was once me, you know, and it comes from their own pain, you know, their own sickness, you know, just like mine was. You know, it helps me avoid demonizing them in a way. You know, it kind of shows me that they're just where I was, or you know, I was definitely there at one point. And then I got to set boundaries without closing my heart completely. You know, I got to set those boundaries, but my heart has to remain open. You know, it doesn't mean that I stay in those harmful situations. Sometimes the most loving thing I can do for both of the people in this situation is to set that clear boundary and to remove myself from that boundary at that moment and tell them, because I love you, because I love myself, because I love this, you know, I want to move forward with that. I have to remove myself because I can't be around this right now. Sometimes that's the most loving thing I can do for everybody in the situation is not try to fix it. You know, and I got to do this. I got to choose compassion over judgment. I have to lean into compassion. I can't be that judge, you know, that judgment, man, will get me in that disease thinking quick. You know, if I see someone out acting out in that like self-centeredness, which is at the core of our disease, Milan, you know, I got to look at them with some compassion, like as if it were me in the early days. And then I always hit on this. I pray for them. I pray for them. Pray for them. Good things happen to people who pray and are prayed for. If you don't know how to pray, pray until something happens. PUSH, pray until something happens. Got to lean into this love, practice patience and love. You know, love is limitless, openness, virtuous, and its expressiveness. It's the most powerful thing we have going on in this world. It's the most powerful word in the world. You know, test it, try it. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I've got to practice patience in all times. You know, I can't have an expectation on how quickly this will happen for somebody. It's a slow roll in this thing. You know what I mean? Just live for today, trying to do better in these lanes we're talking about, and you'll get better. You know, each day. But we have good and bad days. That was my answer. I think I answered it.
Love
You
that.
answered it. Cool answer, Bill.
You got another question, JJ?
I do.
Andrew does, bro.
Yeah, I got one.
Okay.
So
Yep.
you want me to ask you? You want me to ask you, Milan?
Milan.
Is it asking you, right?
Well, sure. Yeah.
You tell me who you want me to ask.
Yeah.
Or you want me
No.
to
That's fine. Even you
Okay.
know, just ask JJ, and then it'll
Okay.
just
All
kind of
right,
keep that.
JJ. What fears did you have What fears did you have to overcome to start loving completely? What fears did you have about that?
To start loving completely. um, the fears of the fear of being rejected, right? Which relates to a core belief, of being empty, of not being enough, right? Which really is a prideful and arrogant position, you know, to think that the creator would have made me deficient, you know, and that if he did, that he would abandon me, right? Because really, when I lean on God as I understand him, he fills me up. This notion of being, a fear of being rejected. I did a deep 4-step dive half a dozen years ago. And, largely what I looked at was this fear of rejection, right? Was a motivator. And what I experienced was the realization that this fear that you're going to reject me only matters if I've already rejected myself, So it's like, giving away my power. Um, so realizing that, hey, I've just rejected myself instead of accepting that, God made me as complete as he did. And this process is to continue to grow into the man that he made me to be. Um, it's a process. Would you read the question again?
Yes, sir. What fears did you have to overcome to start loving completely? What fears
Yeah.
did you have to overcome?
And I think, I think that's it. It's the self-centered fear that that I'm not enough, and it still creeps in if given half a chance. And um, to continue to accept the fact that I, I am complete, and to accept the love that you give me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that that I will be all right. The fear that I will lose what I have or not get what I want, is that,
Beautiful answer, man.
yeah. So I just know I need to continue to bring myself to surrender to God, and let him have his way with me, and make an effort to give, and not let the fear keep me from living. Um, because that's what fear does. It really does. It robs us of life.
Fear
Um,
doesn't stop death; it stops life. It doesn't stop death. Fear does
it
not stop
doesn't.
death; it stops life.
Yeah.
I had
I've
somebody
had
tell
to
me that
do
a long time ago.
well, and and it's true, because since we got here, right?
Yep.
So, but what's kind of cool is to realize that well, that's once again, were we given a spirit of fear, or were we given the spirit of faith? And I know that the spirit of faith feels a whole lot better,
Faith
and I
has way
appreciate.
bigger muscles, bro.
Yeah,
Faith has way bigger muscles.
and I have so much faith in our process, in our program, in the people in this fellowship that
That
give
was
me
a
every reason
beautiful, beautiful
to take
answer,
away
man.
take
You're
away my
such a
fear.
beautiful fucking human. I love you so much, man. Don't change ever. I'll find you. All right, buddy. All right, Milan. What fears did you have to overcome to start loving completely? What fears did you have?
Woo! So, one thing I want to start off with saying, it just kind of inspired by both of what you guys were just saying, is, like, I don't think that love is like a two-way street. it's like where your love flows out of is also where your love flows in. You know what I mean? It's not two separate lanes like arteries and veins. So I think like when you shut down in any way, right? Like whether it's to protect yourself or that also limits on your love going out. Like when you close off part of your heart, you just have less heart flowing. It's not like, oh, okay, I can close this to protect it from Sheila, but then I'm going to flow that out to Richard. Like you've shut that down for everybody and including yourself most of all. So, like the process that we go through inside this program is literally like ripping those scars off our heart and trying to get that flow opening and going again, right? And so, like I'm in the midst of this step working group that I mentioned here before, and I'm really trying to attack my beliefs this time. And one of the major beliefs is that I'm not worth love. you know like that people like that people are attacking me versus trying to love me. And so it's like I am right now going through a metamorphosis of trying to be open enough to receive that love, you know and and it's scary and it's a vulnerable feeling, you know it because like goes back to that fucking record of wrongs. What if I'm giving my love away for somebody who's not going to give it back? And it's the stupidest idea in the universe, because the more love you freely give, the more love there is everywhere. Like it's one of the craziest like rationalizations, but it is literally like something that is just ingrained since like a childhood thing of like, you know, you don't get hurt. Don't let yourself get hurt. Don't fucking get hurt all the time. Get hurt all the time because, then you're going to be the best forgiver in the world. You know, like like really, it's just like if we just try to guard ourselves and protect ourselves, which is what I'm finding myself doing. Like I'm not talking when I say we, I mean me, and I mean that I am just now seeing all these things that are holding me back. Why? Because I want to love more completely. Why? Because I want to be free. Like I really just want to be free.
How
And
free do you want to be?
I want to be so free that all you feel is love flowing from me. You know?
That's awesome.
Like, and fear is shutting that down on all these little fronts in my life right now. And the best thing that's happening these days is that it's like I keep finding ways to disprove fear's strength, you know, over and over. And I'm confronting it, And how am I confronting it? I'm confronting it with the guidance of my higher power in this two-way prayer over and over. And that's it for me.
Keeping that faith, man.
Yeah, beautiful, bro.
Yep. I love you, man. That was a beautiful answer. So
So
how
maybe
do I...
after your answer, we'll wrap it up.
Yeah. That's cool.
Okay.
That's cool.
Awesome.
So what fears did I have to overcome to start loving completely? That's a deep one. You hit like the first thing that I came up with was the fear of rejection. JJ. So you hit it on the head with that. Because I still find myself not doing certain things because of that fear of rejection in all kinds of different areas of my life. Um, and then you hit on something, Milan. Fear is really not as powerful as we make it out to be. I swear, a lot of times that fear, when I'm feeling that fear, it's, and then you're able to overcome it. You look back at it and go, man, what, like if I didn't push through that, I would have been so mad at myself if I didn't push through that. Because it really wasn't as bad as most of the time. It ends up not being near as bad. The feelings that come after it, it's like I pumped this fear up to be such a big thing, and then it's really my own thought process through it. It's my own mental thought process through it that I have to really get a grasp on. But the fear of rejection is huge. The fear I used to hide that behind like laughing and lies, humor, anger, sarcasm, that sarcastic, loud manipulation that I used to act in. But showing up honestly today, letting people know where I'm at, showing up the same time every time. People know what to expect when I show up. But I used to have a fear of being vulnerable, right? Y'all say be vulnerable, share your shit in here. And I didn't, opening my heart felt dangerous. It still feels dangerous. Vulnerability meant that like I could be hurt when I already had enough pain, right? I didn't want to get hurt again. I'm already shouldering enough pain. I don't want to get hurt again. I don't want to be vulnerable and let y'all know how weak I am. And then the fear of being used or betrayed. I have that written down. Like on most days I found myself like in these one-sided manipulative relationships. So like I'm gonna naturally think that other people are coming from that same avenue as well. And then I always have a fear of not being enough. I had that fear of not being enough. You know what I mean? So I feared that I wasn't worthy of that love, let alone capable enough to give it away in a healthy way. So yeah, that was, I got to overcome those by, coming to meetings, leaned into the fellowship, prayed for courage, and practiced love in all those little small ways, the calling people, answering the phone. Love shows up to me in all these little layers today. It's not this grandiose, like, I'm in love with you. It's all these little teeny acts of kindness and love. And, love is action, man. Love is not talking about it. It's action. So yeah, that's good. We're done. I'm done.
Man, I just want to say I really love you guys like brothers, and the connection from my heart to your heart feels strong today, man.
I love you, bro.
guys,
I appreciate it.
Love y'all.
Milan, thank you for including me, brother. I appreciate it so much, man.
Hey, let's end with a serenity prayer and try to take some love into our day to everybody we meet.
There it is. Andrew, I love you, bro.
I love you too, bro.
Okay. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference
just for today. Love you guys.
Today.
So everybody out there, tune in next episode for more recovery fun. Bye-bye, everybody. I love you.
Love you.
Please help us help others. If you'd like what you've seen here today, please subscribe and share this podcast and help us get to 100 followers. We're looking for interaction with our audience. So please email recoveryfreedomrising@gmail.com or contact Milan South Okanagan Starcic on Facebook with questions, topic suggestions, or just comments. We'd love to hear from you.